Carroll bringing it forward. Thompson's making the run. Carroll hangs on to it though. Still David Carroll. Could go all the way here. Oh, what a goal!
Hello, I'm Phil Catchpole and welcome to another episode of Ringing the Blues in what has been a crazy week for football. On this week's show, we speak to the author Michael Calvin about his latest book, Whose Game Is It Anyway? Pretty good timing with this one. Plus, we have all the action and reaction from the Swansea City and Bristol City games, and we also speak to Adebayo Akinfenwa about that goal. But first, let's head to Mexico City for two results and some essential Chairboys Spanish with Uri.
We are ringing the blues from Mexico City, and the only two results that matter this week are Swansea City 2, Wycombe Wanderers 2, and Wycombe Wanderers 2, Bristol City 1. What a late drama we lived at Adams Park, and the commentary by my amigo Phil Catchpole was epic. Truly epic. Oh, what a penalty kick by Akinfenwa, the beast. Oh, you make us believe in miracles. Come on, you can make it, Chairboys. So, for Chairboys Spanish this week, Oi, Wayne Rooney, how are your nerves? So in Spanish, that will be, Hey, Wayne Rooney, how are your nerves? Nerves, nervios, how are you? ¿Cómo están tus? How are your nerves? ¿Cómo están tus nervios, Wayne Rooney? Okay, so hopefully we will have good news next week. See you next time. Back to London with my amigo Phil Catchpole at the Ringing the Blues Studios. Adios.
A massive 7 days for Wycombe men started with a trip to South Wales to take on Swansea City at the Liberty Stadium. They were chasing automatic promotion and Wycombe, well, they just need to win games. Here's what happened.
Musquet forwards to Ikpeazu, a little 1-2. Musquet on the volley. What a goal from Admiral Musquet, and what a start to the second half for Wycombe Wanderers. Ikpeazu linking with Musquet. It sat up lovely for him, and he swung his left foot through it. Keeper with no chance. It's Swansea 0, Wycombe 1. McCleary, lovely little turn up against Hurahan now. Corner of the area, goes on to his right, still going. McCleary, goal! Wycombe 2-0 up now, and Gareth McCleary has started his second half like a rocket. He cut it in onto his right hand side and fired it into the bottom corner. Woodman with no chance. It's Swansea 0, Wycombe Wanderers 2. Good defensive play from Grimmer. Swansea not done, and McCarthy falls on top of the ball, and it's a penalty. McCarthy had slipped and I think landed on top of the ball. He's hit his arm, and the referee, Keith Stroud, immediately blew his whistle. Jamal Lowe versus David Stockdale, and scores high into the roof of the net, and it's Swansea 1, Wycombe 2. Loads of space on the right hand side for Roberts. He crosses to the back post, and it's in, and the equaliser has come, and it's Cullen, the substitute. And Wycombe have thrown away a 2-goal lead here, and Swansea have pulled it back 2-2.
We've just taken it to one of the favourites in the league, you know, and I'm so proud of the boys. Again, I cannot fault the effort. I cannot fault some of the football we played was superb. We had numerous chances, and unfortunately they've got back in it on a slip. Jason slipped over and hit the ball with his hand. It's just a real freak accident, and it is a penalty. Of course, I'm not going to debate that, but I thought we could have had one first half as well. They get back in, the tails are up, but even then we had chances. We had chances to win the game. We look like a team that are ready to impose ourselves on teams, you know, and I'm looking forward to the next game and the three after that, because the way we're playing at the moment, we're really upsetting the form guide, and I think it's a testament to show how far we've come with this bunch of boys. really, really proud and looking forward to seeing what we can achieve now.
2-2, no good for either side really. It felt like the referee should have just let this one go and say next goal wins.
Yeah, it would have been nice, wouldn't it? I'm sure we'd have got that as well. But do you know, it's a nice place to come. Fair play to Swansea. They're a hell of a side, and they've made us feel very welcome. And Coops is a great manager. He's gonna achieve things with this club. The way he plays, the players he's got at his disposal, and above all, he's a gentleman as well. So if I had to share the points, it's not a bad one to share them with. But I think probably if it was a boxing match, we might just nick that one on points.
What did you say at half time? Because that was a hell of a start to the second half.
Yeah, there was not much to say. We were on top first half, and it was more of the same. There was a couple of little things that we said about getting in behind and playing some clever play around the edge of the box, and lo and behold, a great 1-2 with Ichi and Addy, and what a strike that is from him, and then Gareth McCleary does, he's been waiting for his chance patiently. By the way, he's not been knocking on the door or anything, and I thought in training he'd looked very good this week with his finishing, and he's created a fantastic goal there. It's a great finish, and I think that shows what class he can bring to this team. I'm excited, Phil. I'm really excited for the future. Never mind whether we can stay in the Championship or not. If we do, I'm sure we will be a lot better than we were this season. And if the worst happens, I am so excited to take on League One again with the best squad I've ever had. So really pleased, really proud, and you won't see me being down today.
Musquet nearly nicked it at the end as well. I think there weren't many here, obviously, behind closed doors, but a lot of people were off the seat with that one. Yeah,
all my bench were here, definitely. It was just the wrong side of the post, and he'll get some. Addy will learn from all his loan here, and I like him. I think he's a cracking player, and seeing much more of him in the next 4 games will be super special for Wycombe. But gutted today, really am, because the lads deserve more. But you gotta look through it all and say, point away at the Liberty Stadium against one of the league's favourites is an awesome point, and not just that, it's an awesome performance. Really proud, and like I say, look forward to Wednesday now.
I've checked the maths; it's still possible. So business as usual.
Business as usual. Yeah, absolutely. The letter next to Wycombe Wanderers is not appearing yet, and I'm sure people are waiting for that to come. But we can still get 46 points, and I think there's about 5 teams under 46 at the moment. So let's see what we can do.
Bristol City, mid-table, no chance of the playoffs. Is that an opportunity then to maybe attack a team that possibly could be on the beach?
It's an opportunity for Bristol Rovers to play with no pressure. Bristol City to play with no pressure and come at us. So it works both ways, Phil. It's not a case of saying this lot have nothing to play for. They won't be dangerous. They could be even more dangerous with no pressure, and I'm sure they'll be getting a rollicking from the manager this week over a defeat today.
Josh Knight, that card got appealed unsuccessfully. Massive blow, not to have him today, but also for 2 games after this.
Yeah, we haven't had any favours from the officials this year, if I'm being totally honest. No one in particular. I thought Keith Stroud was very good today, actually, and he may have missed a penalty first half, but on the whole, he's a very good referee. I thought he handled the situation very well, but if I'm honest, I've been disappointed with some of the decisions that have gone against us. I'm always going to say it feels like it's small Wycombe and it doesn't really matter, but believe me, it does matter a hell of a lot, and I think we're about 4 or 5, 6 points shy of where we should be with referees' decisions, never mind anything else. Looking forward to seeing what we can do Wednesday. Like I said, that's all I can concentrate on. Yep.
And back to Josh Knight. I mean, he's had a fantastic loan spell at Wycombe Wanderers, and to miss 3 games in the run into this season must be hard for him to take too.
It's going to be, but I mean, it gives an opportunity for Jack Grimmer, Anthony Stewart, JJ. I thought they're phenomenal back 3 there, and like I said, the penalties allowed them back in, got their tails up, and that moment of quality, that cross they've put in there, that's what the difference is in the Championship sometimes. That moment when you get a crossing opportunity, you get it on the button. That was their second goal. They got it right on the button, and it's undefendable sometimes. We've got to learn from that. We've got to improve our game on that side. But effort-wise, performance-wise, and drive, and coming to Swansea and taking this team all the way, nobody expected that. I did. Looking forward to next season though.
A draw no good for either side really, with Swansea failing to capitalise on Watford losing at Luton Town in their hunt for the automatic promotion place. Looks like it's going to be the playoffs for them, and Wycombe really could have done with the 3 points in their pursuit to avoid relegation. Here's what the Swansea fans had to say after the game in the Opposition View Part 1. Fireboy.
In my opinion, we started the game with arrogance and no respect for Wycombe, who are half decent side. We let them run the game and played at half pace when we should have been more energetic. If we'd shown attacking intent at the start of the game instead of after they scored their goals, we'd have won it.
Dwight York superstar.
How many points have we dropped this season due to goals conceded as a result of a Freddie Woodman mistake? We might have achieved automatic promotion with a competent keeper.
Thornberry Swan.
They deserved a point, to be fair. It was a crazy game. We were horrific most of the first 70 minutes, but then perked up considerably to grab a point.
Jack Rabbit.
2-2 is infinitely better than 0-2. And it's all we deserved. Wycombe don't look bottom of the league. Today could have been a lot worse.
Catalyst.
Wycombe worked harder than us, and that's just not on. No promotion-chasing team should be outworked. They put us under pressure, and they were very physical too. Not a tactic we deal well with.
Badlands.
A lot of this praise for Wycombe is just an excuse for how bad we were. They were decent at closing us down, but no great shakes. Our defence was poor. They scored 2, and they should have had a penalty in the first half. We only gained a point through sheer panic and a bit of desire from 2 or 3 players.
Another John.
Wycombe's frailty near the end shows that they were there for the taking if we'd been more positive earlier in the game. Looking at how the other results went today, we missed a big opportunity to close on Watford.
Gary the Not Rash Cougar.
Fair play to the players for digging themselves out of an hole at 2-0 down. But the first half, and especially the first 15 minutes of the second half, is why you can forget any notion of promotion. Let's not beat around the bush. We made the worst side in the division look like world beaters. It was absolutely pathetic. And we could have shipped 4 or 5 in quick succession. Oh, very poor.
Dr. Parnassus.
It was an awful performance and a poor scoreline, but it hardly sums up our season. We are third after all. I've seen far worse things than losing to Wycombe in my time. They've beaten Reading and Cardiff this year, and they took points off Watford and Brentford. It's the championship. It's mad.
Mark Jack London.
Wycombe's form right now is safely mid-table. 10th from their last 6 games, 15th from the last 10. Should we have beaten them? On paper, with our squad? Yes. They paid for only one of their players. And despite not spending much last summer, we paid millions for some of those that were starting today.
Keith Margin.
Very, very disappointing. Should have been 3 points. Simple fact is, we are not good enough, especially against a team with fight in them. Wycombe will feel they had done enough to win that game.
Coming up later on, we've got that chat with Michael Calvin about his new book, Whose Game Is It Anyway? But first, we've got the action from the Bristol City game at Adams Park, including an interview with Adebayo Akinfenwa. Here's what happened.
Jeju has it, rolls it out wide to Nodge. Nodge up against Stewart, corner of the penalty area. Holds it back. That's a great goal. First time strike by Tyreek Backison is a wonderful goal for Bristol City. We were just talking about the quality that this team has got, and we've now seen it. First time, right-footed curling effort right into the top corner. Stockdale with no chance. Wycombe Wanderers 0, Bristol City 1. Back to McCarthy again, crosses charged down, but Wheeler drops onto the loose ball. Lovely little reverse pass to Mehmeti. Great run. Cross to the back stick. Ikpeazu's up and finds the back of the net. And that's fantastic from Wycombe Wanderers. Wheeler and Mehmeti linking up brilliantly on the right-hand side. And there was another buffet ball. And it's been gobbled up by Uche Ikpeazu. It's Wycombe 1, Bristol City 1. Back to Jacobson, crosses in again to the back post. Bentley comes to punch once more. Stockdale, edge of the box, 5-footed shot, charged down, big shove handball, it's a penalty. David Stockdale's shot is charged down by the hand of a Bristol City player, and Wycombe Wanderers have a penalty. Referee blows his whistle. Akinfenwa right-footed and scores. Adebayo Akinfenwa, too big to play football, never played at this level. At the age of 38, has scored his first goal in stoppage time. It's Wycombe Wanderers 2, Bristol City 1.
Gareth, if I had £1 for every time I said it's never done at Wycombe, I'd probably have enough to sign you a couple of strikers. But what an end to that game.
What an end to it. I can just imagine the fans down at that terrace then, what they'd be like, because it was just brilliant to see. One, Bale scoring his first championship goal, but two, David Stockdale coming up for the corner, having a couple of shots, and getting the penalty, and just the drive and belief that the boys had right to the end there. I was so proud of them, and I always am proud. We are a real force at the moment, and our second half of the season has been brilliant, really good form. I think we're probably mid-table form for second half of the season, and it's just the championship. You come up as a small club, you get taught a few lessons. As long as you learn from those lessons, I think people can see the improvement. People can see the upward turn in what's been happening here, and whatever happens, I'm going to be really excited for the future of this football club. But the future at the moment, Saturday against Cardiff, we can get 3 points there. Wow, that could really upset a few teams. Looking forward to going there and seeing what we can do. But tonight I'll just have a calm down for a minute. I think it's one of those nights which chaos was ensuing when I saw Bale pick up the ball for the penalty, and Jacobson's usually the penalty taker took a knock. I thought he had a nasty injury, but then he walked over and took the corner that ended with David Stockdale's shot getting the penalty. I mean, it was just madness, and to try and compute it all is impossible. I'll probably have to watch the replays for once on that one and see exactly what happened. But 2-1, brilliant for us, and huge amount of respect for Nigel Pearson. First time I've really properly met him. Do you know what? He's a good guy, one of the good guys. Really gave us some good compliments, and knows how tough it is as a manager, and took a little bit of advice from him before the game, and I'll take that with me, because if I can achieve what he's achieved in the game, I'll be a happy man, manager at the top level. But the boys deserve the win. Really proud of them, and looking forward to Saturday night.
Madness at the end, but 1-0 down in the second half in what was essentially a win or bust situation. There did seem to be a calm and steely determination about Wycombe Wanderers that they were going to get back into it, and that must have been pleasing for you as the manager.
Yeah, and we've got this belief, but I thought we lacked a little bit of energy, and I think Saturday took it out of us a little bit, starting the same team. Obviously wasn't a mistake because we've won the game, but it was showing in the second half. I think we got a little bit leggy, and it's not nice having to make early subs because you want to change and then put some energy in, but you have to, as a manager, make those decisions. And there's a place when the two subs combined to set Uche Ikpeazu up with a fantastic header at the back stick, and then Bale comes on and what Bale does well, changes games. He had a fantastic attempt with his right foot in about the 87th minute, and then manages to put it past them the 93rd. So really proud of him. But yeah, it's a mental game, wasn't it? I wish the fans were here to see that one.
6 points from safety, 9 points to play for. Rotherham lost tonight as well. Have you still got your fairy tale book from Torquay?
I've still got my cowboy boots as well. You never know, they might come out again at some stage. But surely, can it happen again? Well, let's see. We've got to get 46 points. I know that. And we're well capable of doing that. I also know that. But Cardiff, Bournemouth, Middlesbrough. Wow. This club has celebrated games like that, like you wouldn't believe in the past, and these are standard league games now, and it's a brilliant place to be, and I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly what we can do against these teams now.
There's some big names in the mix-up: Derby County, Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham. What's your message for those clubs going into the final 2 games?
Well, do you know, it's going to be a big team that goes down, isn't it? You know, there's got to be one of them that goes down at least. We're hoping it's 2, and the smallest team that's been in the Championship for some days is going to be staying up. So we'll give it our all. We'll do our part. I've always needed favours. I'm asking again some teams to do me favours, but let's see what happens.
Bayo, the goal came in the Championship. It was never in doubt. It was just when it was going to happen. How did it feel?
Nah, listen, cliche. It's going to sound cliche, but it was a beautiful feeling. And then to get the 3 points, to keep hope alive. And listen, Gaffer's been saying week in, week out, look, pull it all out there and see what happens. So to be able to continue the momentum with the win, this is a beautiful feeling. But the greatest, I don't think you lot clocked in the changing room there. The boys give me a standing ovation like it was my debut, like I was 19 and I was laughing. I was like, you boys know I'm going to be 39, you know. But that's just what this club is about. It was a first. And I ain't had a first since I was 19. So it's a beautiful feeling. I won't lie to you, it's a beautiful feeling. But it was 3 points as well. And it was at Adams Park. Good feeling, man.
Penalty was given. Jacobson was on the pitch. You know, it was only going to be you, or maybe Stockdale was going to take it.
Yeah. To be fair, like Stockdale, give me the eyes. But JJ said to me a couple games ago. To be fair, a little while, he said, "Listen, B, if we get a penalty late on in the game and you want to take it, I'll be up for allowing you to take it." And I did. I asked him. I was like, you good with me taking it? And listen, I got a shout out to JJ because he is our penalty taker, and it was the last minute of the game, and he was like, listen, B, like, I'll back you. If you want to take it, take it. So I was like, all right, cool. And then listen, the rest was history. I was able to put it in the back of the net. And then listen, you saw, it felt like we had fans here, and that's just for me what the most humbling was that how excited. Everybody had a bigger smile than me, and I was trying to keep it in like I was cool and that, but you know, I was smiling on the inside, but everybody had a bigger smile than me, and I'm talking about from the kit man down to our CEO, down to our press man. Everybody had a big ass smile, and that means a lot for me. Do you know what I'm saying? So I am humbled.
You nearly got one from open play. It was a great save by Dan Bentley. Is it ever crossed your mind this season, you think, I might not get this goal?
Yeah, man, I ain't gonna lie, it did, man. And especially then, because I was moving like a young Messi. You know what I'm saying? Why are you not laughing at me? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, say nothing there. You know what I'm saying? All twinkle toes and that. No, but when he pulled it, I was thinking, oh, Lord. To me, sometimes you just got to chuckle. And at that time, I was thinking, oh, again. But listen, at the same time, listen, if it didn't come, I wouldn't have allowed it to beseech my career. But like anything, you want to be able to say, listen, at every league I played in, I was able to score. And tonight I was able to do that.
38 years old, injury time penalty winner. Football's had a bit of stick this week. You spent most of your career in the lower leagues. This is where the heartbeat is, isn't it?
Come on now. To be fair, the fans spoke about it anyway, about this silly ass Super League that they was trying to do. This is where football's at, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you just got to keep it. This is, I always say, this is real football. Me and Pete be chatting about this constantly. This is real football. So it was a beautiful way to end the week. Oh, well, it's not ended, is it? It's Wednesday. Well, you know what I mean.
6 points off safety, 9 points left to play for. This is on, isn't it?
Come on now. Listen, if you know Wycombe, yeah, trust me, we're going to be swinging in every game. And you already know our gaffer. He exuberates energy and belief. And look, that's what we're built on. So, listen, we're going to go into Cardiff and we're going to swing. And then we're going to go to Bournemouth and we're going to swing. And we're going to go to Middlesbrough and we're going to swing. And then come the end of it, we'll see where we're at.
There's some big clubs down there with you. What's the message to them?
Watch out. Plain and simple.
Bayo, congratulations, mate.
Thank
Pleasure.
You, brother. Phil, blessings, my brother.
So Bristol City succumbing to goals from Adebayo and Akinfenwa. Quite literally, a massive attack. Well, here's what the Robins fans had to say after the game. It's the Opposition View, Part 2. Kerr Avon.
Another pathetic surrender from City, who can't defend balls into the box and lack the discipline to see out games. Once Thompson spiked back's ankle on 55 minutes, our midfield lost control and the long bombardment began.
Northern Red.
That second half was an absolute disgrace. As soon as Wycombe started to play, our lot didn't want to know. They absolutely bottled it.
Pezza.
Fair play, Wycombe did record their first 51% possession in a game since the 11th of February 2020. I wonder if our useless bunch of realise that fact.
Cheddar Red.
To get outperformed by, sorry Wycombe fans, the whipping boys of the division like that in the last 15 is embarrassing. They played with far more fight and energy, and they've had 22 shots. It's shocking. We are a bottom 3 team. Make no mistake, if we don't get this right in the summer, we have a very real chance of going down next season.
Copello.
Nothing sums up our side better than 30-stone Akinfenwa dancing around our entire defence, only to be kept out by a great save by Bentley. We are absolutely pathetic.
Globetrotter.
That was so bad it was genuinely amusing. Their keeper looked more like scoring in the last minute than Fam or Wells did all night.
Artful Walker.
We are the worst team in the championship. What a poor excuse for a professional squad we have. Great heart from Wycombe. They played with everything Bristol City lack. We are an embarrassment.
Gaz Red.
Not exactly high on quality or consistency, but I enjoyed that. Wycombe present a different challenge to a usual championship fixture.
CT Red.
Imagine if we had players that cared as much as the Wycombe players do.
One Stream in Bristol.
Sign Stockdale and get him up front.
We're all set then for another nail-biting end to a Wycombe Wanderers season. Just imagine a reality without promotion or relegation. It could never happen, could it? Well, the European Super League was announced on Sunday, the day before Michael Calvin's latest book came out. His book's called Whose Game Is It Anyway? So the timing was pretty unbelievable for him. It's a project he's been working on for a while, and I thought I'd catch up with him for a chat. Since we spoke, the wheels appear to have come off this European Super League. Well, I started off by asking Michael about the coincidence of his book coming out pretty much at the same time as the European Super League plans being announced.
So it's better to be born lucky than talented, mate.
Right, well, tell us about this game and whose game is it anyway? Because it's slightly different from your previous books on football.
Yeah, it's part memoir, part manifesto, I suppose. And in many ways, it was quite appropriate that it came out at a time when the Super League was dominating headlines and generating such outrage, because in many ways over the last few days, people have been feeling the pain that I felt about a year and a half ago, really, where I'd fallen out of love with football as it was. I could see something like the Super League on the horizon. I'd grown tired of the institutionalized greed and elitism and duplicity and hypocrisy. And it took the death of my father-in-law to actually almost give me a chance to reset. Now, that sounds really strange, but my father-in-law, Ollie Goss, was he was a victim of COVID May last year, May the 7th. And he passed away in his care home. from COVID after having suffered from advanced vascular dementia. And like many people at the time, we couldn't obviously visit him. So we were communicating in the last days of his life via FaceTime. And on one call, a couple of days before he passed away, my wife was speaking to him about football. He was a massive Watford fan. And he suddenly had this clarity because of the dementia. There were times when basically the veil had been drawn over his mind. But again, he was 11 years old again, and he was walking through the streets of West Watford to the game with his dad and getting his sweets at the sweet shop, the great anticipation of the game, the spectacle of it, the colour, the noise. And when he passed away, that left a huge made a huge impact on me. But also, when he passed away, we found this wooden box in his shed, and it was an old toolbox, quite a big one, which had all these old tools which were used by his father. And in the inside of the box, there were 3 fixture lists from Watford in the 1932-33 season. One was it was first team reserves and a midweek league. And above the midweek league fixtures, now all the results were annotated in pencil. Was a very small thumbnail photograph of a young footballer. Now, I just basically wondered who that was, and researched through, went into the official club history, found out some more about that particular time, and basically couldn't crack who this guy was. And then, by chance, we also found a photograph of my father-in-law in a football team from the 1945-46 season. He was playing for the Royal Marines. He was a commando during the war. And I looked at him and I thought, that might well be the lad in that photograph, because there were similarities. Now, it didn't add up that it was taken in 1932, because he'd only been about 10 or 11 years old then. But I wondered whether he'd had a trial for Watford later on, or just before the Second World War, or something like that. But whatever it was, and the mystery still remains, I was left with a huge impression of what football is, and football is family. It's identity, it's belonging. And I thought then, and I've used that moment almost to focus on my own life. As I say, I'm always a bit nervous about doing autobiographical stuff, because frankly, what we do is not that important. And I find that I think there's something pompous about actually sort of saying, "Oh, look, this is my life, aren't I wonderful?" I don't like that. But put it into context of not just my life, but also the way sport has evolved. What heroes matter? Do heroes matter? The people that I've followed, the things that I've learned on the road. I've been ludicrously lucky as a council house kid from Watford. I've worked in sport and particularly football in about 80 odd countries. So it's given me a huge sort of insight, and very, very fortunate insight into the way the world works. So I use that, lessons of my own upbringing, my own career, and then essentially went to look for what I considered to be the good guys, the good people who are working in what is quite regularly a bad game.
It's certainly become that, hasn't it? And I mean, those good guys, those stories of those good guys, give us some hope here, Mike. Do they exist at a decent level? Is there going to be something left after all the dust has settled?
Well, there are. I think the one thing that struck me, I went to Bury, met a guy called James Bentley, and because I wanted to know what it felt like as a fan when your football club doesn't exist anymore. What do you do? And he was remarkable. We did this interview on a Saturday morning. I was going to see the new Phoenix Club in the afternoon, Bury AFC. And we're sitting on platform 2 of Bolton Street Station in Bury. The steam trains are coming in. And it was a bit interesting because there's a bar on the platform there, and there were this couple opposite us, and fair play to them. They had, and this was about 11 o'clock in the morning, they had the biggest flagons of lager I'd ever seen. There must have been half a gallon in each, and they were wanging it back at 11 in the morning. I'm thinking, wow, what's going on here? But when James spoke, I'd never heard a fan speak so eloquently and passionately about what his football club meant to him and how it was intrinsic to his life. And I'm sure, fans of smaller clubs perhaps feel that more than the guys who follow the putative Super League guys or Premier League, the Premier League remnants, if we want to call them that. And when we looked at it, that on that station, football's about history. It's about family and history, and civic pride and belonging. So on that platform, literally on that platform, Bolton Street Station, his great-grandfather had gone to war in 1914, came back in 1919 because he'd been held prisoner in Germany. He indirectly, several generations down, introduced James to the game. That station was also where Bury left in 1903 for the FA Cup final at Crystal Palace. They won 6-0. Came back, local heroes, still talked about to this day. So there's history for you. And then he started to talk about the precise moment he heard that they'd been kicked out of the league. It was at 11:05 one night. His first game with his dad. And all this sort of, it sort of, it was a rebirth of all the things that I loved about the game. And so from there, I went to see the Phoenix Club, fan run, and again, it mattered there. People, it was an expression of community, but also it was friendships. It was like what I call cheers football. Everyone knows your name. It was friends. There was only 150 people there because it was socially distanced, but everything felt right. And the more I looked into it, and the thing about being this pandemic is that people, all of us, to a greater or lesser degree, have had time to self-reflect. I think there's been a lot of that around. And I think people, that's why the Super League has been such a kick in the guts for people, because it's so venal and it's so, frankly, amateur in terms of the way it's been presented. But it's empty, it's meaningless. Now, football clubs, you work with Wycombe Wanderers, Phil. It's I know it from personal experience. It's a vibrant, community-driven club. That's what football can be and really should be. So I went up from there, and the great parallel that I would draw, I've done a chapter which I've called Curse of the Quid, which I'll tell you why, but that was with Accrington Stanley. No, I love that club. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant club. It's a great institution. It looks after its community. It offers a whole range of social programs around the club. It's helped their elderly supporters through the pandemic. It's even got its own memorial garden now in the back of the new car park. Andy Holt there, the owner, I think he's brilliant because he gets it. He gets what football means to people. And now here's a guy who pretty much got into football by accident. He was basically Accrington were skint, as they usually were at the time, and he thought he'd help them out, and in the end realised that they were in real trouble, so he just took them over, and wanted to run it almost in his own image as a local boy, local council lad, who probably made good to a degree. He's got his own sort of plastics firm. And when he was building it up, he used to sleep in his garage on cardboard boxes because there was a some sort of machine which was very temperamental, and the alarm went off. So basically, he had to be with it all night. Now he's built up a company now, which is he's worth about 80, 90 million pounds. That sort of money gets you on an entree into a certain level of society. And he was telling me about, and this is where I came up with the phrase "curse of the quid." There's a sort of private members club in London, and it's where all the huge billionaire businessmen go. He's invited in, and he's asked over a drink, "Oh, do you like art?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I've got a few paintings on the wall, it's all right. I know what I like." And this guy said to him, "Oh, yeah," he said, "I bought a painting last week for 23 quid. And he said, "Well, that's not bad, 23 quid, yeah." He said, "It was a Picasso." I said, "Well, what do you mean it was a Picasso?" "Well, it's 23 million quid. These people use quid as a shorthand for £1 million, right? So Andy extrapolated that. He said, these are exactly the type of people who are who are running the Premier League, and obviously now, as we now know, trying to set up a Super League. They're people who talk about £1 million as a quid. They've got no conception of value of people or anything. And that really, really stayed with me. I thought, yeah, I think there is now a great move. I think we're at a time of resetting. We're talking at a time where the story of the Super League is changing by the hour. I do sense there is a real move now to try and be on the right side of history, players getting involved, managers getting involved. Fans are unanimous. Well, the great thing about fans in this instance is that they've dropped the tribalism. They've dropped the whataboutery. They're all together. We're in this together, chums, So that gives me hope. And I say there are so many good people around, and you see it on a weekly basis, Phil. You see probably the same faces every week, or did when we have fans. And also, you can see in their faces what it means to them. You can see it when Wycombe score a goal, or I see Gaz come up with his latest winkle picker moment, whatever it is. So that's real. All this other stuff is not real.
Is there an opportunity here, Mike? Because, where High Wycombe is located, you could wander around High Wycombe Town Centre on a normal pre-COVID sort of weekend afternoon. You'll see Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, all those clubs. You'll see those shirts, probably more than you will Wycombe shirts. Is this an opportunity now for clubs to kind of extend to their local community and say, look, these clubs don't want you anymore. Come down to Adams Park, come down to wherever, come down to, the Crown Ground in Accrington. Come and get involved in something that's bigger than just a football club.
Well, Phil, to invent a pretty timely phrase, support your local club. And again, as I said, one of the things I've been struck by because of the pandemic, people are searching for meaning. And I think people are looking at football in a different light. I've got a mate of mine who is a West Ham fan. And he was saying that, look, if I take my lad to football at the Olympic Stadium, which I hate because it's a big, horrible, soulless bowl, get my trains down, a few beers before the match with my mates, have something to eat. He said, probably I don't get much change out of 250 quid. I can go down to my local non-league club, which actually in his case is Barton Rovers, and it's about 8 quid. It's something to get in. You have a few pints with your mates. You can change ends at half time if you want. It's a much better, much more enriching experience for him, and also it saves him several hours and lots of money. So why don't you go down to Adams Park or, Kenilworth Road or, wherever you want to care to mention, as you say, the Crown Ground, or I think they call it the Wham Stadium these days. But I think it's going to be interesting to see. And I've also noticed in the last couple of days as we've been speaking, there's a move in Liverpool, for instance, to go and support Liverpool AFC. The Liverpool fans themselves they've been betrayed by their owners. So they say, right, okay, well, we'll go and watch the local team. You think of someone like Marine in Liverpool, cracking little club, and the standard of football obviously is going to be not going to be as good, and as you go down the leagues, as it's basically down to the decision making skills of the players themselves. They'll always have this occasional purple patch where they look like Premier League players, but they find their own level, don't they? So I think there's a lot to be said for supporting your local club. Certainly, if the Super League comes off, I won't watch it. I've got no interest in it, and I suspect I'm probably not alone. When I first heard about it, I thought it was about a 98% certainty. I think it's in the balance now, and I hope it fails. I really do. And also, they shouldn't be allowed to come back without any consequence if that happens. They should be kicked out. The top six should be kicked, or the so-called top six should be kicked out without a shadow of doubt.
It's interesting what you're saying about the standard of football, because going back to we talking about your father-in-law, and I think we'll all have these memories. I remember my dad taking me and my brother to Lokes Park in Wycombe when I was a little kid, my first ever game, and that was in the Isthmian League. But that was equally as fascinating for me to watch Wycombe that day than it was to see them at Wembley in July when they got promoted to the Championship. The standard is neither here nor there. It's like you say, it's the stories. It was the sounds, the smells, the people. And you go every week. If you've got your favourite ticket seller for your 50-50 draw, you go there, you have a chat. It's the only place in town, I've said this before, where you can get your people who are doing well in life, who've got their own businesses, and you've got them talking to people who support the same team. You may work in a supermarket or maybe a student, or where else do these people come together? The football's almost secondary to it, isn't it? And I think that's what the things like the ESL and going back to the Premier League back in the early 90s, I think that's what they've forgotten about, isn't it? It's more than just a game.
Yeah, well, they're divorced from the realities of life because of, as I said, the curse of the quid. I think also there's a fundamental misunderstanding about what comes with being the owner of a football club. You're a custodian of the community. So that's what someone like Andy Holt is really good. He understands that. He said, look, his role is to make sure there is a sustainable club when he's not around. That's what he's committed to. So it's a generational thing in that sense. When you look at the best run clubs, they have an identity about them. And I think that's what's impressed me about some of the younger Phoenix clubs, like, Bury AFC I've been to, Lewis, brilliant club, absolutely brilliant club. And I'd watch them every week. The football wouldn't be brilliant, but I'd watch it every week because, the horrible word, but ambiance, it just feels right. And the social contract that they've got with their supporters is brilliant. Equality in terms of paying the women and the men same amount. I just think, it's authentic. That football, football in League One, League Two, I think possibly because of financial circumstance, the idea of doing a 51% model that we've seen in Germany be a very, very important protective force. I think that would work in a lot of lower league clubs. And you've obviously got to get the right people involved. But I was very impressed. I did this. Basically, the book spawned a documentary I did for BT Sport called Ours, which was looking at fan-run models. It's a real shame, actually, because we did it pretty quickly, and we'd fixed up to go to Germany to see the guys at Union Berlin, who literally sold their blood for the club. The club were in trouble, and they sold their blood. And there was this we had this fantastic image. The guy said, "Well, yeah, come and watch us. We can't watch the games anymore, but what we do is we go in the woods, and we watched the game in the woods. We put the flares on, and we have a few beers, and we watched the game on our phones and stuff like that. And it was, I thought, oh, that's going to be fantastic. And of course, we couldn't get there because of COVID, unfortunately. But I digress. But yeah, so I suppose the thing that struck me about it was that there is more to life than empty profit and loss. The people who are telling us that they are Super League super owners, they spend £100 million on players like Perez, Florentino Perez, £100 million on Eden Hazard at 28. Great bit of business, that chum. I just think there are really good people doing good things in the game. I talk in the book about who cares for the carers. Two brilliant guys. One's a guy called Tony Robinson, whose son Anthony plays for Fulham. He was the coach of my son's youth team. They were a brilliant youth team. They won everything in Milton Keynes and the Eastern region for 3 seasons. 7 of that team went into the academy system, including my son. None of them made it. At least 4 or 5 probably should. And it was because of the failings in the system. Desperately bad coaching by awful, awful coaches in an academy, a so-called academy structure. Lazy talent identification. It was just really poor. Tony now works with kids, disadvantaged kids, basically the estate kids who the football clubs can't deal with them socially, But he's got the ability, the knack of actually relating to them and rescued a few. The other lad was a guy called Pete Lowe, who was featured in other of my books. He was in No Hunger in Paradise and also in the film. But he called me just a couple of weeks actually before the pandemic, before the lockdown, and we met in a golf club just outside Manchester. And he said, "Mate, I've got something to tell you." And he told me the story of a young lad who was discovered in the act of trying to commit suicide in the garage of the family home. And that obviously shook him, and he was very prescient. He said, "Look, we're going to wake up one morning and we're reading our papers or scroll through our phone, and there's going to be a young lad who's released from a Premier League academy and who's going to take his own life." And that did transpire tragically. But it was also, he talked about the pressures on himself as an individual, as a father himself, because as he said, "Look, I'm a problem solver. So basically, who looks after my problems?" Every day he's just got grief and angst and anger and guilt thrown at him from young lads. And he was talking about, the experience of being there when you've got a 13-year-old boy in front of you, hyperventilating and unable to even speak because he's so distressed. You dealing with that, you take it home with you. And he said, "Look, to be honest, I had a breakdown because of it." Now, good guys like that are remorselessly exploited by the system. I hate it. And he deserves more credit than 99.99% of the football community. He's doing a great job, not getting enough credit for it. And that's why I hope people read the book and they see the goodness in people, because it is there. It is there. And I suppose at the end of the book, I'm looking at different models. The strange thing about the Super League is that actually there's a germ of logic in it. There is an unpalatable truth that there probably isn't a global market for something like this, which is as empty as it is and as corporatized as it will be if it takes place. And I'm looking at different models. We've already talked about the Phoenix Club model, the Lewis type model. I went to see Hashtag United, which is a club essentially without it hasn't got a home, it doesn't represent a town, but it's got a huge fan base globally because of social media. They've got a bigger social media presence than all but about 5 Premier League clubs. It's an amazing operation. They then put me on with a group of guys called the Sidemen, who have got a link in with Leyton Orient. 7 guys. They have been doing football type videos for about 5 or 6 years. Those football videos have got 26 billion views. 26 billion? And they've reached an audience that football can't through these videos. That's why they did the Leyton Orient thing is so that they can do their videos at Brisbane Road rather than go in a local park where they just get mobbed. Guys like that, that could be one form of the future. But I am convinced more than ever even after this week, that the future of the game lies at a local level. It won't die at local level. There'll always be, 4,000 people who turn up for Wycombe, wherever they're playing. You tell me if I'm wrong. There'll always be a rump of people who care about the club, and that could be, 28 people who turn up at, Bedford Town or something. I don't know. With respect to them, I don't know how many people they draw. But what I'm saying is football can be and is alive at localised level. And it's alive because it matters. The stuff that these other guys are talking about does not matter at all.
Well, Mike, this sounds like this book it's come along at the perfect time, because I think a lot of people have been quite depressed about what's going on at the top end of our game. And it sounds like there's a lot of hope to be found in there. And while I've got you on, I've got to speak to you about Wycombe as well, because I remember the day I met you was Wycombe was staring almost a certain relegation in the face from the Football League, which I think possibly would have taken them out of existence and created a new Phoenix club, because it would have created financial oblivion. That wasn't that long ago, really, was it? That press box at Torquay. And I speak to you now, Wycombe are looking at another relegation in the face, but not quite so important, this one. No,
it was a lovely, lovely fairy story, wasn't it, last year? And I loved Neil's book, Neil Harmon's book. I thought it was really good. Again, the characters within Neil's books and your podcast, they're identifiable characters. They're real people. They're not commodities. They're professional footballers who happen to have a human dimension to them. I have to say, I'm sure this won't go down terribly well, but I am surprised Gaz is still at Wycombe. I did think he would move on. I thought he would end up at somewhere like Blackburn or something like that. But he's doing a great job with it. To be honest, it was pretty. There were long odds against Wycombe surviving this year. They've actually made a fist of it quite recently, haven't they?
Yes.
There've been some good wins, but I think the enduring lesson is you've got good coaching, you've got empathetic management, you've got sensible stewardship in the boardroom, and you've got loyalty amongst the fan base. Relegation need not be a disaster. It doesn't strike me that your board is a knee-jerk type of board. Gaz won't sort of flounce off into the sunset and throw his leather jacket over his shoulder, will he? I don't think. So I would put Wycombe with some decent recruitment as potential. They could have a good season in League One next season if that's what transpires.
Well, yeah, it's not a done deal yet, and fairy tales do happen. Now, Gaz was in your book, Living on the Volcano. You got to spend a bit of time.
Still got the Mustang, by the way.
Oh, of course, yeah. He can't have the shoes and the jacket and not the Mustang. They all come as a package. So you got to spend some time and get to know Gaz back then. He's really kind of played on the underdog and the not having any resource, and he's really made that his own thing and made it work. Wycombe, if they do drop into League One, will probably have one of the better budgets, ironically, in that division. That's a completely different skill for a manager, isn't it, to deal with that?
Yeah, because with money comes responsibility. With responsibility comes expectation. This is why stability is really important, I think, at that level. Again, I go back to Accrington. Johnny Coleman's been there for 18 years, 19 years, something like that. Andy Holt says he'll never sack him. He's a bit of a market trader in the transfer market. He's got some kids from Chelsea, a lad called Terry Uwakwe, and Chelsea basically said, yes, you can have him, but you got to pay him £1,500 a week. And he said, no, I'll pay him 400. And they swallowed it because they know that if they can make it at Accrington, which is a pretty gnarly football club, it can get a bit cold up there. And Johnny and his staff don't suffer fools at all. That's a great development path. So, I think with some, and also it is going to be interesting to see how all the macro politics influence the transfer market. I think there'll be a lot of players let go this summer. So I think, if Wycombe have got decent recruitment, they've got a decent chance to pick up players because it's an attractive part of the world, isn't it? And also, there's stability there, I think. You might replay this in sort of September and it's carnage. You're at the bottom of the league and, the whole thing's blown up. But I don't think that'll happen. And it is interesting. But managers get associated with football clubs. There is a theory, which actually, to be honest, I do subscribe to, is that you can stay somewhere too long. I always think there's a sort of 3 to 4 year cycle, really, that you can manage to essentially engage your players, because eventually they stop. They hear your voice so often they stop listening to it, and I think that's to Gaz's great credit that he's able to. I suppose he regenerates the squad quite regularly, doesn't he? So there are newer people around all the time, but I think that will be. I think you've almost got to ignore what's in your bank balance and try and do. I think Accrington's budget is something like it's about 1.5 million, something like that. It's 1.8 or something. It's not a lot of money for a season when you think about it. So if Wycombe had, say, I don't know, invested money in the stadium, and so he had a playing budget of 2.5-3 million, you could get yourself a decent team with that.
Well, exciting times for Wycombe Wanderers. Either way, I mean, it's been a great season in the Championship. It's not over yet as we sit and talk. It could well be by the time this goes out. We shall have to see. But Wycombe in League One is by no means a disaster in the grand scheme of things. Mike, it's been great to speak to you, and I really hope the book goes well. Whose game is it anywhere? I mean, I'm guessing it's out Amazon. Bookshops are open again, aren't they? So people could go and buy it.
All bookshops are open. Having said support your local club, support your local bookshop as well. But it's on Amazon, Waterstones, anywhere and everywhere. Please go and buy it.
And also, I mean, there's your back catalogue. If people aren't aware of your work, I mean, No Hunger in Paradise, Wycombe, Living on the Volcano, and Wycombe features in quite a lot of your books, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, as you said, Gaz was in Living on the Volcano, which was the manager book that I did. Obviously I've been back ever since. Featured in The Nowhere Men, the book on Scouts. The club has been fairly constant in some of the stuff that I've done.
Well, I hope to see you in a press box soon, and I hope it's not a game where Wycombe are fighting relegation. I hope they're at the other end of the table.
Okay, mate. Thanks very much.
Many thanks to Mike Calvin for his time this week, and also to Adebayo Akinfenwa and you guys as well for listening in. We'll be back next week with more news of Wycombe wins, hopefully, as they stave off relegation from the Championship. It could happen. Keep the faith and come on, you Blues.